This is She Creates Business, a podcast for wedding pros. Your host, Kinsey Roberts, interviews incredible women in the wedding industry who are making their mark and creating success on their terms. Join the conversation.
Hello there, and welcome to episode 134 of She Creates Business, a podcast for wedding pros. This is your host, Kinsey Roberts. Thank you for being here. I have missed you over the last month. May 2019 kind of hit me like a ton of bricks, and I did not publish a single podcast episode in that month. If you had noticed, I'm sorry. If you hadn't noticed, great. But I'm back, and I'm looking forward to the next few weeks. We have a lot of fun episodes for you, and I can't wait to get them published. We're back and ready to rock and roll this summer. So if you're listening to this in the future, it's completely irrelevant to you. But hey, today on the show, I have Abby Jiu and Lisa Ziering from Abby Jiu Photography. I know you're going to really enjoy this interview. We talk specifically about utilizing Instagram stories in your business to grow your brand and grow your business. And this is not a topic I've covered yet. I've covered social media. Of course, everybody talks about Instagram and Facebook in some various capacity when it comes to my podcast interviews, especially if we get into marketing or anything like that. But Abby really and Lisa have really taken hold of their Insta stories to specifically benefit their photography business. And I had a lot of fun talking about this with them and learning from them, and I know you will too. Before we get there, I just want to tell you guys, during my hiatus from the podcast, a few things were going on. I was still recording. I just kind of banked everything up and didn't publish. So in the next few weeks, you're going to hear from Megan Gillikin, who is a wedding planner in North Carolina. We talk a lot about the 5 biggest mistakes she sees wedding vendors making. You're also going to hear some venue owner specific podcast episodes from myself and Lindsay Lucas, my best friender in the industry, and my venue trainer extraordinaire. We actually have 4 of those episodes coming up. But listen, if you're not a venue owner, still tune in and hang with us, because I think you're going to really appreciate those episodes too. And I have some other ones in the hopper as well, but those are kind of what you can expect in the next few weeks. So don't forget to come on back and tune in. I won't forget about you for another month. I promise you that. You're my everything. And while I have you here, I also wanted to let you know that during my hiatus from the podcast, I updated the opt-in shop. If you've been a longtime listener, you know that I have a shop on my website. It was previously called the opt-in shop, but I have rebranded it. It's now called the Pro Shop. Get it? A podcast for wedding pros, the Pro Shop. I feel like it's kind of cute. If you think it's dumb, don't tell me. But if you think it's also awesome, feel free to DM me on Instagram. I thought it was kind of cool. Anyway, I've rebranded it to the Pro Shop, and there are not just email opt-ins in there anymore. That's why I chose to rebrand, because I was adding new products. So what you'll find in the Pro Shop now is really a combination of my opt-ins, or whatever you'd like to use them for, my vendor meeting workbooks that you can use for give to your clients. And the cool thing about everything in the shop now is it's editable in Canva. So you can edit the cover page, the welcome letter, and the thank you page to be custom branded to your business. And previously, they weren't editable at all. So they're all editable in Canva now. Canva can be free, or it's a really inexpensive tool to use, but I'm so excited about it. So in addition to all the vendor meeting workbooks, I also have a customizable 12-month wedding planning checklist. You can customize that to your business and give it to your clients, give it to people just reading your blog. I also have some products specifically for venue owners, like venue owner checklists for the interior of your building, the exterior of your building when you're getting ready to set up for wedding season. And I have a few products coming soon. They're not live yet, but one of them is how to create a vendor portal on your Squarespace website. So if you're a Squarespace user and a venue owner, I think you're going to want to check that out. And then I also have 1 year of social media content done for you coming up really soon, specifically for wedding vendors. So not just general ideas, specifically for wedding people. Anyway, that's the Pro Shop. You can find it at shecreatesbusinesspodcast.com/shop. It does financially support the show. So thanks to all of you who've made purchases out of there. I sure do appreciate it. And without you guys, the show wouldn't exist. So the show is always brought to you by you, the listener, because you're what makes this a podcast. And financially, it's supported by that little shop. So thanks, guys. I appreciate you. Okay, moving on. Let me tell you about Abby, and then I'm going to tell you about Lisa. They do work together in the same company, Abby Jiu Photography, but I thought I'd tell you a little bit about both of them individually because they're very fun and have a cool story. So Abby Jiu had a passion for gorgeous imagery and creating art since before she can remember, but in 2009, she picked up a camera and hasn't put it down since. Her style is the best of both worlds, using film and digital cameras alike to catch the stolen glances, fits of laughter, and heartfelt emotions sprinkled among the ever important beautiful details that make each wedding day unique. She loves having the opportunity to get to know her brides and grooms and uses these relationships and her decade plus of experience to capture precious memories in an intentional way. When she's not behind that camera, Abby fills her time with her supportive husband, Jamie, their lovable bulldog, Penelope, and sweet son, Cooper, who, like her, is always taking in the world around him. Abby loves DC, but also revels in traveling abroad, finds relaxation in the form of eating something sweet, me too, I feel you on that, while watching TV on the couch, and has a great appreciation for interior design and fashion. You can see her work on the pages of Brides, Martha Stewart Weddings, The Knot, Southern Weddings, Washingtonian Bride and Groom, Southern Living Weddings, People, Inside Weddings, and more. She's received numerous accolades, including being named one of Martha Stewart Wedding's top photographers and a Washingtonian editor's pick. Wow, right? That's Abby Jiu. Abby, you have such a commendable career already, and I know you're just getting started and you're full bore. So a little bit more about Lisa, her associate photographer. Lisa Ziering has loved wedding photography long before she became the one creating it. She's been shooting film since her high school days on the yearbook staff and hasn't stopped since. She's in love with the details, getting to know the couple's story, and getting challenged to take her work to new heights by the people she gets to collaborate with. Chances are you'll find Lisa with a smile on her face and a tear in her eye as the couple exchanges vows and walks back up the aisle as newlyweds. Though that won't stop her from taking gorgeous ceremony images. When it isn't wedding day, Lisa is most likely taking her high-energy Brittany pup Peaches for another walk, being an amateur food critic with her boyfriend Alex as they debate the merits of various Neapolitan pizza spots around town. That sounds like a good side hustle. I'm into that. And tending to the ever-growing collection of plants taking over her living room. We touch on that in this episode. Lisa's work has been published in Martha Stewart Weddings and Washingtonian Bride and Groom. And that's Abby and Lisa. I mean, can you wait to hear from them? Let's not wait any longer. Without further ado, here are Abby Jiu and Lisa Ziering talking about why you need to get over your grid and get on Instagram stories. Here we go. Abby and Lisa, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having us.
We're so excited.
I am thrilled to have you here. You guys, I was telling Abby and Lisa offline, and you know this, of course, if you're a longtime listener, that we have not had a show dedicated to Instagram stories. And gosh, you guys, how long has it been? I guess 2 or 3 years since Insta stories was around, or less time? I don't even know.
Yeah, it sounds about right. It feels like it just started, and then it also feels like it was forever ago.
Exactly. It's like I don't remember Instagram without it, but also it feels more so. Yes. So looking forward to digging into this topic. And as you guys know, I read your professional bio there separately of this interview or at the top of the show. But I always love for you, just in your own words, to tell us who you are and where you're coming from. Just a real brief synopsis. So Abby, why don't you start? And then Lisa, if you'd go after that, that'd be great.
Yeah, so I started Abby Jiu Photography 10 years ago, and in my previous job, I just wasn't very happy. I was looking for something else and stumbled upon wedding photography and found out that I loved it so much. And oddly enough, I got my first wedding off of Craigslist, and which is such a weird way. And like looking at it now seems so odd, but it's completely true. And I just started slowly raising my rates and got to a better price point, got off of Craigslist luckily, and started getting other referrals for wedding business and started building it up. And we photograph all over the world and mostly luxury weddings for sure. And then 5 years into the business, I realized that I was growing at a great rate and I was very excited about that. But I also realized that I was either turning down weddings because I was booked or because I was too expensive. And just a couple years prior, those weddings that I was too expensive for, those would have been my dream weddings. So I saw this opportunity to bring on an associate. And at the time, Lisa was helping me and I could tell she was super talented. So that's when I asked her to come along.
Yeah, so I feel like so lucky that Abby was, took me under her wing and kind of taught me the ropes. But it's kind of funny how we met. I actually weirdly found her on Style Me Pretty. And I knew I wanted to be a film wedding photographer really early on in my life. So I reached out, we set up coffee, and she told me at the end, like, if I ever need a third person, I'll call you. And I thought, she's never going to call me. But it was really great to meet her. And then she did. She called me, and I showed up to a wedding for 10 minutes. I helped roll film. And then she kind of needed somebody pretty last minute for another wedding. And then that's kind of how our love story started.
You guys have the best love story. And there's also a lot of internet connections happening in this story. Like, found my first wedding on Craigslist. I stalked Abby on Style Me Pretty.
Yeah. Lots of stalking.
I love it. Well, this is great. So tell me, and I don't know who wants to start this conversation, but the gist of what we're talking about, as you guys can tell from the title of this episode, we are chatting about how Abby and Lisa have used and are using and just crushing it on Insta stories to increase engagement, increase bookings. And we're going to dive into all of their best tips. But whoever wants to start with this, what was the impetus for beginning to take Insta stories really seriously at Abby Jiu Photography?
Yeah. So what really got us started getting into stories and really making it a big part of our everyday life was that we were sharing the same Instagram account, but you couldn't tell who was talking or not talking, who was posting, whether it be myself, Abby, or Lisa. And so we really wanted to differentiate to show how we both do our own weddings. We're at these beautiful places, and it's two people. So we decided we needed to get on the camera and talk. And so it was very intimidating, but luckily we have each other to push each other. And that's when we started doing it.
Oh, okay. So you wanted to differentiate really within the business. It doesn't sound like, or maybe there was, it didn't sound like that there was very much like, let's do this to increase bookings. It was really more like, we need to do this for personal branding reasons because there are two of us.
Yeah, so basically what was happening on the back end was people were, inquiring and not really knowing that I, Lisa, was a lead photographer. So for me to help increase my bookings, I needed to have a bigger presence on the Instagram. And the easiest way to do that, we thought, was just through Instagram stories. That way we could, jump on one day myself, and then the next day Abby, and everybody, our audience would know that it's two of us.
So
and really
smart.
really through talking to the camera and putting yourself in front of the camera, because I think sometimes you can utilize stories just by posting your portfolio, pictures that you've done, or I'm at a restaurant, but you're really not using it effectively. So it's when we started putting ourselves in front of the camera that Instagram stories became more effective for our business.
And Abby, you mentioned that it was intimidating to put your face in front of the camera. Can you kind of talk about how you overcame that intimidation?
Yeah, so we both just said we have to do it, and so we made each other do it. And I do get that it is intimidating, but we're not saying go on Instagram Live and start talking. We are suggesting that you record on your stories and then post it. So the good thing about that is if you make a mistake or you don't like it, you just re-record it, and then you can post it when you're happy with it. And then as you start to post more, then it becomes easy and you don't have to do multiple takes.
So good. So you're so right. And it's such an easy thing, right? It's 15 seconds. You can redo it. I love this. Okay. I cannot wait to dig into your tips. So do you think that's a good place to start, or do you want to...
I think we could go into tips. Yeah, I think we can.
You think so? Okay.
Yeah,
cool. Well, and I think too, if we incorporate, what I'd love to do is just incorporate how, as we go into the tips, incorporating how Abby Jiu Photography is using that tip and maybe what that has resulted in for your business would be great for the listeners to have that example.
Sounds
Does that
good.
make sense? Cool. Okay. So what is that? I think everyone has at least hopped on stories a few times, right? And Abby, I totally agree. I do it myself. I am not great about getting in front of the camera because I feel very feel very shy about it a lot of times, and I use it for like stagnant photos, not for my face. But one way or another, I think we've all jumped on stories. So let's assume the basics. Everybody knows how to do it. What are kind of those first tips for those of us though, like me, we're shy to get on video? What should we be doing first?
The grid is your portfolio and stories is your conversation. So stories is where you're going to really show your personality and differentiate yourself. Because obviously the wedding market is so saturated and pictures and events can look all the same very easily. So we always say, you're really selling yourself when you are in a client meeting, a potential client meeting. And so stories is really the way to show your personality. So that's what we want you to think about it overall when approaching it.
But yeah, there are so many like good little tips that we have to help you overcome like that fear or like that the first couple times that you put yourself up on Instagram. And one of the biggest things that I can say is to help you keep yourself accountable, because you might not all have both of us like we do.
Sure.
Is create a content calendar. So that's going to help keep you accountable. If you just kind of map out, like maybe tomorrow you're going out to lunch with like somebody else in the community, you can Instagram about that and literally write it down in your calendar. I'm going to talk about that on Instagram stories. And that's kind of going to help you get started. Just holding yourself accountable.
I like that. The concept of a content calendar is familiar to all of us, but when it comes to Insta stories specifically, I would venture to guess not a lot of us have one. We don't have a content calendar for our videos. So I think that's such a good tip. How do you keep track of your content calendar, the two of you? Do you have like a shared Google Doc or just notes on your iPhone? Tell me more about like the logistics.
Yeah. So we do totally use a content calendar for like our grid photos as well. We use Later for that and we love it.
Right.
And then actually Later does have a component where you can put in your Instagram stories and like kind of do it daily. But something else we do together is we have a shared calendar through like the, iCalendar. And that's where we're writing down, because then we can see each other's calendars together. Like Abby will know I'm going out to lunch, or I'll know she's going to a party and I know she's going to talk about that.
Okay. So, that helps you, especially if you're in a partnership like Abby and Lisa are, you guys, that helps you guys not overlap each other either.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. And just like, it makes it apparent. You're like, oh, I have an engagement session today. So this is easy content that I'm going to show. So since it's already on your regular calendar, that's what is easiest for us, since we can it coincide with our daily activities.
Okay. So you have a content calendar. Do you have an amount of time per day you like to be on Insta stories, or are you purely holistic? Whatever gets on there, gets on there.
It's a little bit of both. Sometimes we're very planned and we do a great job of devoting time to it. So say we are going to talk about a certain topic, then we'll just set aside some time during the day to record that on Insta stories. So we know that this is another thing. And as a business owner, we're adding one more thing to your plate and you're already busy. But we do think it's super important, and that it's kind of like 10 years ago when someone said, oh, I don't think I need a website or email. I'm going to do everything in person. It's all about relationships. I don't need an online presence. And the people that didn't create an online presence probably are going to be left behind. And that's what happened if you didn't create a website. And so this is what we want people to think about as far as Instagram stories, is that it is important to carve out that time, because it is where Gen X, millennials, and Gen Z are communicating with others, and where they're looking for wedding inspiration / vendors. So that's why it is important to devote the time.
That's Abby, you just really hit the nail on the head, and I'm sort of chastising myself here. I'm like, you need to get on Insta stories. I'm backtracking a little bit, Lisa, but I wanted to ask you specifically, because we did touch a little bit on having that fear of getting in front of the camera, and I just wondered, I'm also in a partnership, so it's my sister-in-law, we own our wedding venue together, but I wonder, and you've been in the business for 5 years, but ultimately Abby started the business. Did you have any fear fear around, putting your face out there as a representative of Abby Jiu Photography, or like, have you ever felt like, oh, this isn't like totally my business, or you know what I mean? Like, how did you work that into getting on stories and just diving right in? It didn't sound like you were fearful at all. You were just like, yep, let's do it. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so Abby has always been so generous to make me feel like this is a partnership, and I never felt like, this is her business, or it's like kind of feels like ours at this point. So when we decided that I had to go on Instagram stories, it was kind of like, Lisa, you got to put your face out there. So it was a lot of me in the beginning, and it was kind of just like, it just seemed like we had to do this. Like this was the answer to our problem. And it was. So it just kind of felt like we had to do it.
Okay. Oh, okay. I figured that's what you're going to say, but I had to ask because I was interested in knowing, and we have a lot of people listening who are also in partnerships or thinking of partnerships. So this is good. Well, okay. So making a content calendar, carving out the time to do it, giving people insight into that, your personality, your personal brand. We've kind of talked about those things. What's another tip you can offer for our fellow wedding entrepreneurs to help them start incorporating Insta stories and things they can do in their business?
Yeah, so something that makes it easier to come up with your content is to come up with themes. So we suggest 3 to 5 themes that are both personal and business, but also relate back to your brand. And that makes it easier. So for example, with us at Abby Jiu Photography, some of our themes would be our dogs. So we do talk a lot about that. And so that is, personal as well. So our dogs luckily love each other, love to play together. So we like to show them on Instagram, and that does very well. Other things that we talk about.
I mean, a lot of times, like I'm hanging out with my dog a lot, right? Like she's a huge part of my life. So why wouldn't I talk about her? I'm doing so much with her. And then like some other fun little things. I'm a new plant mom.
Hey,
and so I've been
congratulations.
Thank you. I've been talking a lot about that just because I found that a lot of people are also new plant moms, and we kind of exchange advice. So it's like this opportunity to start another conversation. And I've created a lot of friends online with it. So it's done really well.
And another thing that we do is we talk about trends that we see. And this really relates back to the brand because we strive, and I think we do have very stylish, trendy clients that always want a amazing wedding gown and look fabulous at their engagement session. So we like to talk about trends or maybe outfits that we're wearing that day because it's something personal, it's something that we enjoy, and it's also something that relates to our ideal client and how we continue to attract them by being ourselves.
Okay. So one thing you just said, by being ourselves, which I like that a lot. And I noticed that the first 2 pieces of like content themes you mentioned were not business related at all. They were very personal, your pets, and then also becoming a new plant mom. But those are the things that, which I think is brilliant. But those are the first 2 things you mentioned. So they have to be, I'm imagining they have to be one of, 2 of the things that get you the most engagement. And that's, we hear it a lot, but that's just more proof that, being personalized and showing your personality is what's going to connect with people. Would you agree?
100%. Yeah, people want to get to know you. I mean, that's why we're telling you to put your face up on Instagram stories. They want to have that personal connection, and kind of letting them into your life a little bit. And we're not saying like share everything about your life. We understand like there's a lot of things that you want to keep private. But by creating these themes, it kind of just sets you up to just share like those 5 things that you decided on.
You know what else I like about your themes is that it creates continuity and I love this.
Exactly.
I am an avid story consumer. I love
exactly.
Yes, I love seeing the same people every day on stories, and it creates continuity in my mind. I'm thinking like, oh, I'm going to see what the vanilla tulip is talking about today, or Palo OMG or whatever, and I never miss a day. Like, and this is what you're doing for your clients. And I just, my mind is being blown right now. Okay. What's the next tip you have for us?
So when you are posting and you obviously want to do it consistently, but you also want to do it a certain number of times. So say, for example, we are photographing an engagement session. We don't want to do just one photo of the couple. We want to tell the story. Like you said, you're a consumer of stories. You want to know about these people, or you want to know more of who they are. So think about it in that way, and that you need to post at least 5 from one event to create a story, because a story needs a beginning, middle, and end. So it could be a picture of the couple walking. You could talk to the camera, give tips on how you're approaching that day. You could take a picture of the couple. This is funny, actually. Lisa, our engagement sessions look glamorous, but sometimes they're not. And for example, our couples like to change in the car sometimes. They don't like to, but they kind of have to. So I'll let Lisa tell that story.
So what's funny is like my client shared on her Instagram, she was like, the behind the scenes that Lisa Ziering doesn't tell you. And she had to get changed like in a parking garage. But I love that she posted that, because it's not the glamorous side. That's not the pretty pictures that I had on earlier in the story. So I reposted it and I was like, here you go, guys. It's real.
And that was probably among like all the pretty posted stories we did that day. That was the one with the most engagement, because it was so real.
It's so relatable. Everyone's like, I've done it, or that's going to be me.
Yeah. I mean, all my clients have to go through it. So now they know.
Now they know. Do you have, stories need to have a beginning, middle, and end, of course, Do you guys do that for your weddings as well? Like if you're on a shoot day, I guess that's a question I have. You're super busy as photographers on a wedding day. How do you post your stories on a wedding day?
Yeah, so we definitely have a game plan going in. We, like everything, we always have a game plan at Abby Jiu Photography. But the thing, we do have a beginning, middle, and end. So ideally, we start by talking to the camera, introducing the day, and getting our followers engaged. Like, what is this wedding about? Is she an interior designer that lives on the Eastern Shore and wants to incorporate oyster shells and different textures and patterns in her wedding day? So we're introducing it so that as they follow along, they see those themes and they see it reoccurring, and they know the story of this bride. Okay. So we start by introducing it, and that's before we even are like starting on our contracted time with the client. And then we know of some times that always do, I guess, are like easier for us to capture the content. Like if we are capturing some details before the day, some like flat lays in the invitation, we always usually do that. And then we just really make a point to shoot on our camera and then pull out our iPhone and take another pic too. So we kind of know what pictures we want to post on Instagram and be sure to pull out our phone. And then when we have a break, say for example, dinner, that's when we'll post everything.
Okay. All right. Brilliant. So you have that's a solid plan. It's not fly by the seat of your pants.
No, we've got times during the days where we know we can get our phones out and post it.
And we realized if we didn't have that plan, we would go through the day and think, oh my gosh, I didn't get this, or this would have been a great part of the story, and we wouldn't post it. So I think that's what happens to a lot of people too at weddings is, oh, I didn't get enough time. I was so busy. I didn't get anything to post. So you really have to set this plan forth on what part of the day you can take those pictures and when you can post it, and therefore you're going to hold yourself accountable and be more successful at posting.
Yeah, and I think like a lot of people in the wedding industry are posting like 1 or 2 days after the wedding, but everyone is waiting on Saturday night to see what you're doing. Did you have a wedding? So doing it right then and there is actually what's best, and that's what Instagram is looking for too.
Brilliant. I have a question. We're going to get to more tips, but I think you guys have offered so much already. I thought this would be a good time to share what becoming really serious on Insta Stories has done for your business and in your business. In your email to me, Abby, you mentioned, it's increased engagement, it's increased bookings. Let's talk about that, because I think this might be, like I say, a great kind of shot in the arm to say like everything Abby and Lisa are doing and talking about may sound like, oh my gosh, I cannot put another thing on my to-do list, but here's the possibility. So tell us about what it's done in your business.
Yeah, totally. So it's definitely helped our business because we have found that when brides are coming to us, whether through online or through a planner, they have already, for example, I booked a wedding and the planner received the inquiry from the bride because she found her on my Instagram, which is really funny. So she got the wedding from seeing work that we did together. And then by the time the planner reached out to me for my availability, because I had put so much forth out there about Penelope and my son Cooper, the bride felt like she knew me and said she couldn't wait to meet them. So not only am we producing the work and our portfolio as far as weddings, but we're establishing that personal connection before we even talk to them.
I love that. So you are, really quickly, I just want to touch on that. You're comfortable putting your kids on stories. That's one of your thing.
I post him, but not a lot. I would say I post my dog more. And so, yeah, so I am comfortable posting him, but I try not to have baby overload.
Sure. Okay. But it's one of the things that they see themselves in you. Your clients, it sounds like they're like, that could be my future. So they find commonality in that.
Yes, definitely. They just already are intrigued by their personalities and want to meet them, and it's part of who I am. So they have already committed or invested in me before we even talk.
Have you found have you found, going from someone who says they have found you on Instagram or Insta stories, one way or another, if they found you on Instagram, they've likely seen your stories. Have you found that has changed the dynamic of your one-on-ones, like your initial meetings? Because they do feel more comfortable with you? Is that a factor at all?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think sometimes people are a little shy because they don't want to admit all the time how much they know about us. And we're like, no, it's fine. Like, we put that out there. It's okay. So I think that after we get past that part, then yeah, I feel like it's much more already like a warmer meeting.
Okay. All right. Okay. So I just had to, oh yeah, go ahead, Lisa.
No, I think that it also, it's not only helping with our inquiries and like that initial phone call, but it's also helping my relationship with my current clients. I feel like I'm going to an engagement session and they already know about my week. They know how busy I was, how much work I'm putting into their session, how much work I'm putting into like helping them with their wedding and everything. And it helps create like and show off my value, which I think is really hard for like all creatives. You put a price to your name, to your craft. And you kind of have to like pitch to a client, like, this is my value. This is why I am this much. But it's another outlet that I have to be able to like show it off. So I feel like it's creating that. And it's also creating another outlet for me and my clients that I have now to have like just communication, really.
Yeah. And they feel like they get to know you more. We're not always in communication. Sometimes our clients are booking us out, 12 months or more, what have you. And it's like, well, we don't really need to talk a whole lot until, an XYZ period of time. So that's so smart. Yeah. Do you find now that you're really dedicated to Insta stories, you have your content plan and everything, do you find that you are creating content? I guess, how do I want to ask this? I guess when you think about content, when you guys like sit down and have a business meeting and you're thinking about the content you want to share, is it more geared towards obtaining new business? Is it more geared towards your current couples, or is, what's the tertiary client there, I guess, and what's like the target audience that you're kind of going for? Does that make sense? Am I asking that right? I kind of just want to know like who is in mind for you when you're posting to stories?
I think all of the above. I mean, I have to talk to our potential clients. I have to talk to our current clients and our past clients too, not to mention like our vendors, frienders that we have too.
Totally. Okay. Does that inform the content you share, and how does it inform it?
I don't think we are always thinking like past client, future client. We're more just like what's on brand and what is attracting our clients. So whether, like if it's fashion or if it's plants or something, I feel like it speaks to both of them or all of them. And it's really just personally what our interests are, what we like to do. And so it encompasses all of them.
Because they are all your ideal client, whatever stage in business they are with you, past, future, current, they're all, that one ideal avatar.
Right. Yeah. And we talk about avatars in business and creating them, and it's so hard to do. But obviously, if you want to attract them, then you have to put that out there. And so we find this is such an easy way to do it versus just posting pictures that you took at a wedding that is, your work, but it's not always you, like personally. And so that's another way to show off who you are to your potential clients or past clients or any kind of friends that you've made along the way.
Yeah. I have a quick question, and maybe you've answered this and I just didn't understand, but it sounds like, and maybe this was earlier, 5 years ago, but it sounds like, Abby, you shoot at a higher price point than Lisa. Is that still the case?
Yes, it's definitely the gap has closed more and more, but we do photograph at different price points.
Okay. But so even though you have different price points, are your kind of the clients that you're speaking to and their likes and dislikes and the things that you share, such as you mentioned that they really love that your brides are on brand, on trend. Even though you shoot at different price points, those clients are attracted to the same things, or do you kind of factor that in with any content that you share?
Yeah, I think that even though we might be sometimes shooting different budget weddings, I still think our brides like the same things, and it's all part of the same brand. And then sometimes Lisa will be shooting a more expensive wedding than me that day, whether it's like just happened that way or the client already knew her through someone else. So even though sometimes we do shoot, we start at different price points, we still attract overall a very high-end client.
Okay. All right. I wanted to know how that worked out, having those different price points in your business. Smart. Okay. So this is great. Thank you for sharing all of the inside scoop about how stories has really impacted Abby Jiu Photography. What's another tip you have for us?
Okay, so another thing is obviously you want engagement. You want the DMs, you want people sending you the emojis or whatever. So one way to increase engagement is to use the stickers. So whether that's the polls or the Ask Me Anything question, we encourage people to put those in their stories every now and then to increase people interacting with you.
Okay. So tell me more about that. What are some specifics that you've done?
Yeah, so basically, otherwise, if you weren't using these stickers, you're not giving your followers an opportunity to have like a communication with you,
right.
And they're just kind of looking at it, right? So you need to increase engagement and to have the conversation. You just need to give them an opportunity to say, "Hey, I really like that," or actually, I'm going to vote no on this one.
Yeah, and it could be anything from silly, like what should I mean, something small like. What do we think?
Should I have sweet green again today? Or maybe it's something more serious, like, are you more attracted to like this kind of flower look, or maybe it's something a little bit more edgy like this. And you really want to know that from your potential clients.
Do you ever do it to do market research?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Tell me more. Like, what have you asked?
Yeah, so we definitely use it to learn more about who is following us. So we would ask, are you in the wedding industry or a potential, or are you in the wedding industry or are you a bride or groom? And then also, if you are in the wedding industry, are you a photographer or are you something else? Because we have an education component to the business and we do like to mentor people. So it's helpful for us to know who we're talking to, whether it's photographers or other people, so we can figure out how to shape some of our mentorships.
So good. I'm glad you brought that up because that's kind of another, because you have the mentorship and the education arm of your business. I mean, that's kind of another audience that you're serving as well, is the fellow vendor. It's not the couple, it's not the bride or whoever it is. It's the fellow vendor and someone who wants, the education, the tutelage part of your business. Do you ever foresee yourself starting a new handle for that part, or are you liking it the way it is now?
I like it the way it is, and like we said, we do devote a lot of time to this. So I feel like another handle is just a whole other thing. So I do think there is a way to balance both. And so it's still, I know for some people, education might be a bigger part of their business than photographing weddings. But for us, it's more photographing weddings with a little bit of education. So it's important for us to kind of devote that amount of time more to the clients, but then also bring in the education to bring in the education to bring in that component as well.
And I've seen other wedding planners and other photographers, and they have kind of the same situation, right? They have their business part. They're also doing mentorship and education now. And they ask, like, do you care? And usually they don't. And I feel like it's a little bit of that human interest. Even if it's a bride or a groom or a couple, I feel like they're still interested in kind of the education part just because it's human interest. It's like, oh, cool. What else are Abby and Lisa up to? You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it actually even more so builds credibility, the fact that you are teaching and you are known as an expert. So bringing those two together, even on the same Instagram handle, can be beneficial for both components.
I like that. Yes, absolutely. What else? What have we missed? This has been amazing.
Yeah. So one thing that is super important and something we think people might be missing out on right now is tag all of the vendors in all of the pictures that you're sharing on Instagram stories, because you can, if other people are going to be doing it for you, you can just repost it, making it really easy. But then also your photo, your name is getting reposted on other people's Instagram. So you get a broader audience.
Oh, okay. So just to clarify, what you're saying is, at a wedding, even if you're posting a photo where that vendor is not necessarily in that photo, still tag every single vendor at that wedding.
Yeah. So for example, if I'm posting like a picture of a bride, my goal is to know where she got the dress, tag them, know who did her hair and makeup, tag them, tag the planner, tag the venue that I'm at. That way, all those people who are included in that photo can just repost it on their Instagram stories.
It's big. It's good. What else is there? Did we miss anything? I feel like this has been like I said, my brain is exploding. I'm about to go get on Insta stories.
Good. That's what we want to hear.
Yes, definitely. I think that's it. I mean, we've hit a lot of I think we've hit all the tips that we really talk about and that we stress.
And you know what I loved about this conversation is that you make it feel very attainable. I don't feel intimidated at all. I don't feel like, oh, sweet baby Jesus, like I can't do this. I feel like this is exciting and so fun, and now I'm going to go follow Abby and Lisa because I don't want to know about plants and Penelope. And you know what I mean? You make it feel very attainable.
Like so excited.
Yeah, totally. And I guess we have like a challenge, or I guess, or like a
little bit of homework for everybody.
Oh yes, give it to us.
So our homework is for you to plan out 2 weeks of your content for Instagram stories and hold yourself accountable, as well as find at least 3 themes that you can talk about. Do you think you're up for the challenge?
I mean, I'm writing it down because I'm like, don't forget this challenge. That's why I'm not. Okay, so plan 2 weeks of Insta story content and also challenge yourself to find 3 themes in your business, like that you can talk about. Okay. 3 themes. I'm legitimately writing this down. Okay.
We can't wait to see it.
This is going to be in the show notes, you guys, because if you want to take Abby and Lisa's challenge, I'm sure they would love to see it. Post about it on Insta stories. Tag them both. Their handles are going to be in the show notes. Show us what you're planning. Where can we find you online? Of course, I'm going to put it in the show notes, but tell us where we can all find you and connect with you.
Yeah, so our website is Abby Jiu, ABBYJIU.com, and we both post to at Abby Jiu Instagram. And also Lisa has a separate Instagram account where she posts as well. But our main content is on the Abby Jiu one, so that just makes it easier for everyone.
Perfect. Thank you guys so much. This is, Abby and Lisa, this has been super fun and very exciting. Thank you for being here and for sharing all of this.
Great. Thank you. I'm glad that you found that so helpful.
You are welcome. All right. We'll talk to you next time. You guys, if you have any questions for them, reach out to them, Abby Jiu on Instagram. Thanks, Abby and Lisa. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening to She Creates Business. Please take a minute and head to iTunes to leave an honest review so we can help more wedding pros find the show.